I hope you enjoyed that action footage that we showed at the beginning of the video. And I want to start off by talking about when you go out and it's one of those days when you've got it figured out. You're catching fish, your buddy's catching fish, big smiles on everybody's face, high fives around the boat. Everything's going your way. You got it figured out until you don't. Somebody throws the light switch on you, the bite window dies. That's what we're going to talk about today, the dark times, when that bite window dies and you know that you're going to have to really start to change your philosophy, your strategy. You're going to have to grind it out just to catch a few more fish. That's what we're talking about today. So before we get into that, let's take a look at one more fish catch. We'll remember the good times. Then I'll sit down and get a few things set up here and we'll talk about what happens when the bite window dies. Let's talk about the first step that you have to take when it comes to implementing the new strategy when your bite window closes. The first thing you're going to have to do, and this sounds easy, but it's not always easy, is be quick at determining when your bite window has closed. Because you don't want to be on a pattern or doing something where you're catching fish and all of a sudden whatever you're doing, for whatever reason, that bite stops. You don't want to keep doing what you're doing for another hour, an hour and a half before you say, you know what, we've got to move, we've got to do something different. So, you know, it's not always easy to make that quick decision. I'll say, give you an example. The easiest bite window that you can probably see and feel and predict is that change of light bite in the morning. You get out early, you start a topwater bite, and you're getting bit every other cast for maybe a half an hour, 45 minutes. The sun comes up, and as soon as that sun comes up, you stop getting bit. It's almost like a freight train hits you. It's pretty easy to turn around to your buddy and say, you know what, our topwater bite is gone. We've got to change our strategy. That's a simple bite window that you can predict. Most of the time when you're out here and maybe you're throwing chatterbaits or worms or whatever you're doing, unless it's a tidal thing or a weather thing or something that is, you know, just hits you in the mouth, it's hard to determine, hey, whatever we're doing is not working anymore, we got to change it. So that's the first thing. Be quick at recognizing when your bite windows change and start to implement your plans quickly. So now that we've determined that the bite window is closed, what do? Well, the first thing a lot of people will do is start moving around. And here on the Delta, they talk about running the tides, getting ahead of the tide or getting behind the tide, finding the area of the river where the fish are biting. And by the way, I don't care if you're on a lake, a river, stream, wherever you're at, when the fish go off the bite, they don't go off the bite in the whole lake or the whole river. There are always some fish that remain on the bite. Now, they're harder to find, especially, you know, if you're fishing a tidal influence body of water, or if maybe there's a weather pattern that comes up. Yeah, sometimes, you know, you can have a lake or the whole river just kind of turns on and turns off. But more often than not, you're going to have certain areas that turn on and certain areas that turn off. There's going to be certain fish that bite in certain areas, and there's going to be certain fish that just don't bite in certain areas. So moving around is a good strategy, but if you don't know where to move around, if you don't know how to chase the tide, don't do it. The strategy that we're going to talk about today is staying in a same area or within, I'll say, a 3-mile area of where you are catching the fish at the time when the bite window dies. You're going to move around that area, but you're going to move around differently. You're going to move around with a different purpose. And just remember, as we are in, let's say, the epicenter of where we're catching our fish, and that bite dies, it doesn't mean that the bite has died, you know, around the corner or a mile away or a half a mile away. You don't have to run 20 miles. Now here's 4 things that we're going to go over, and I'll point them out right now, but we're going to talk about in depth. One of them is I want to move quicker and I want to fish slower. I want to tighten up my bait rotation, and I want to make sure to honor my target zones. That's going to be a big thing in my strategy. Honor your target zones. I'll go over that in a minute. And then the 4th thing is I always want to be looking for new water. When the bite is on, that's not when you want to be running around looking for new water. When the bite dies, it doesn't hurt to spend a little time exploring. And you may not be exploring catching fish, but you're exploring for new water. You're looking for clean vegetation, you're looking for ledges, you're looking for places that you don't know exist until you go actually examine them. So those are the 4 things. I'm going to go over them one more time. Move quicker, fish slower, tighten up your bait rotation, make sure to honor your target zones, and look for new water. So what I want to do is I want to go over a scenario that actually happened to me just a couple of days ago. And as I talk you through these 4 steps, you can see what I did in the morning, what happened, what I was thinking, and why I am doing what I'm doing. So here we go. Very quickly, I came out the other day. I was on a topwater bite. I was out on the water about a half an hour before sunup, and just like we talked about prior, I was catching fish. I knew where the fish were, having a good time. Sun comes up, that bite window dies, and I know I not only lost my change of light bite, but I lost a little breeze that was blowing, the weather flattened out, or the water flattened out, and I lost a tide. So everything that was happening was not in my favor to continue catching fish on topwaters. So I knew I was going to have to change my strategy. Now, did I leave the area? No, I just sat down and I say, I'm going to change my strategy. So what am I going to do? I wanted to start moving around quickly. I wanted to go from here to there, to here, to there, to here, to there, maybe 100 yards at a time, maybe a quarter mile at a time. But I wanted to move quickly, but when I moved, I wanted to slow down and fish. That's the first thing. You move quickly, but when you get to your areas, you slow down and you fish them. The second thing that I did was tighten up my bait rotation. Now, I have generally been fishing about 6 to 8 rods during the day, during the course of the day, for the last couple weeks. And I have a couple of those baits that have been my top producers. So when I talk about tighten up my bait rotation when I am scouting, I'm going to go down to right now to 2 baits. And I'll talk about those 2 baits, and I'll talk about why I am using the 2 baits, and we'll blend this in with moving fast and fishing slow. Like I said, I've had 6 or 8 rods on my deck for the last couple weeks. The #1 producer that I've been catching fish on is a weightless Senko. And by the way, this strategy that we're talking about, you can change the baits to whatever baits you have confidence in. And you also have to know that I am fishing the pre-spawn and spawn. So as I go through the next couple weeks, if I hit this same scenario, my baits may not be the same, because then we might be fishing for post-spawn fish or summer fish, whatever it is. So keep that in mind. So my prime bait was a weightless Senko. So I know that is going to be one of the baits that I am going to use. Now I can throw that Senko and I can fish it very slow. I can fish it in anywhere from 1 to maybe 5 feet of water. If I need to fish it a little faster, I can give it a little twitch and I can cover a little bit more water. Now the second bait that I chose today, and it's a bait that I have been catching fish on in the morning and through the day, is a bubble walker, river to sea bubble walker. Why do I like this bubble walker over a just a small Rico popper or something like that? This is a smaller bait. I have confidence in it. I know I can catch fish on it. It is a walking bait, so I can either pop this bait very slowly or I could walk it very quickly. Now I'm using this bait because I can fish shallow water. I can put this in places that I might not be able to fish the worm very comfortably in. Maybe it's just some nasty slop, that's vegetation that's underwater, and I've got maybe 6 inches of cover, water over the top of it. I can throw this right over the top of the vegetation. Maybe I'm on a flat or something like that. So I can fish this quickly. I can fish, and I can slow it down and just pop it. I can walk it. I can pop it. Two baits that are pretty versatile, and between these two baits I can fish pretty much everything that I'm going to need to fish. I want to caution you about using baits that you may have recently purchased at your local tackle shop. You know, something that you've been wanting to try and you've heard about it, you've read about it. I caution using those baits when the bite window is shut off. You want to use your new baits when the fish are biting. You want to catch a few fish on them, you want to get some confidence in them, and then once you've done that, you can see how they work, you can see how they have to be manipulated, how fast you can fish them, how slow you can fish them. So you don't want to use those brand new baits that you want to be trying out during this particular time when the bite window is dead. You want to use your proven baits. So now that we have our baits selected, let's talk about honoring target zones. Now, as we move around, as I am moving 100 yards here, 200 yards over to here, maybe switching banks, maybe going a half mile, seeing something that I want to try, stopping and fishing. What I am looking for is high percentage target zones. I am not looking to find a bank where I need to fish 100 yards, 200 yards, a quarter of a mile. If I am on a rock bank, I am looking for a tule patch. It could be this big, it could be the size of a Volkswagen, but I'm looking for isolated, high percentage target zones. So if I'm going down a rock bank and maybe I've never fished that rock wall before, and all of a sudden I see one clump of tules, I'm going to stop and I'm going to fish that. But I am going to honor that target zone like I know there is a fish there. So when I see it and I'm 100 yards down the bank, I'm going to drop, I'm going to drop the speed of my big motor. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to get on my trolling motor, and I'm going to go to lots of these small targets where I am only going to throw 1 or 2 casts. Could be with that worm where I throw it into the base of that thing and I just let it sit, twitch it once or twice, and then I'm gone. Maybe I'll throw 2 casts. And there could be within maybe a quarter mile on that bank, there may only be 5 tule clumps. I'm going to fish that quarter mile real quick because I'm only stopping at prime target zones. Tules, little tule clumps are great out here because anytime there's a tule, it's going to grow on hard bottom, and even if you've got a bunch of nasty submerged vegetation around it, there's usually a hard spot or a hard bottom where the tules are growing. Here's your tip. Honor that tule zone and make sure that you know that your target zone may only, the tules may be a clump like I'm showing you here, but your zone may only be that far from the tules. So you have to honor that. You can't go up, look at it, and look down there and say, oh man, I should have cast down in there. There's a nice little trough that's maybe a foot or 2 deep, and everything around it looked like crap. I didn't want to fish it, but I had to go over there and look. When you go over there and look at it, there was a perfect little place for a fish to be in there. You didn't honor your target zone. You didn't honor what you were thinking that, about how there could be a fish in there. So getting back to moving quickly, fish slowly, and honor those target zones. That target zone could be a dock. It could be a fallen tree, it could be a big rock sticking out of the water, it could be surface vegetation, whatever it is, honor that zone and just fish the high percentage targets. I want to give you a couple of tips when it comes to fishing these high percentage targets. Mentally be prepared to fish a lot of them without getting a bite. Every prime target doesn't hold a fish, and every fish that's on a prime target doesn't mean it's going to bite. So just keeping that in the back of your mind, knowing that every target doesn't hold a fish, and even if a fish is on it, it's not going to bite. Be prepared to go to fish dozens, if not hundreds of targets within a couple hour time frame. And realize that if you are lucky, maybe one out of every dozen targets that you fish, you will get a bite or catch a fish. And generally, when you're fishing these small primary targets, it's going to be a one fish deal. If you get lucky, you may catch 2 fish on some of these targets, but more than likely, you're going to go to a dozen of these things. You'll catch fish on the 12th target that you fish. Then you're going to have to run and fish a dozen more or 2 dozen more before you get a bite. Obviously, you have to have a mindset that you are not going to be getting as many bites, and you're not going to be catching as many fish when you are doing this kind of fishing. But think about this. You weren't catching fish when you started the tactic. Don't think all of a sudden you're going to catch fish hand over fist. So in closing with that, I've kind of walked you through what I do. Just, learn when your bite window is closed, change your strategy quickly, move quicker, fish slower, tighten up your bait rotations. A lot of times you can go with smaller, slower moving baits. That would be another thing that you can think about. And then change your mindset as you are fishing these prime targets and you're honoring these prime targets and you're fishing them to the best of your ability. With that, if you have any questions, hit me up. And I know all of us think about this, and all of us have gone through exactly what I've talked about in this video time and time again, almost on a daily basis. So I hope it helps some of you guys to figure some of this stuff out. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. And you know what? I usually say I'm going to get out and go fishing, but if you take a look up here behind me, maybe you can see that palm tree up there. It is absolutely blowing, I'd say 25 to 30 today. It's just not a fun day to fish. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go home and grab lunch. I'm going to redo all my stuff. Maybe I'll come out tomorrow if the wind dies. Thanks for watching. See you guys on the river.